Hello and good evening to everyone. Hope you all are safe and doing well. I'm Shawnee Shah, a postgraduate student of media science from the Heritage Academy. A warm welcome to you all to this wonderful guest live session of At Adda. Today, we have with us Dr. Mahul Bramha. He is a commentator and columnist on luxury brands. He is an award winning communicator and a CSR leader. Dr. Brahma is also an actor, filmmaker, and an avid painter. He is the author of the Lux Trilogy and Quarantine Love in the Time of Corona. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Shalini, and thank you Heritage Academy for having me here. It's a pleasure, and thanks to Modupa for her invitation. So thanks to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you are remarkably prolific. Can you please tell us about your journey?
Well, you know, so I graduated from St. Xavier's College in economics. Then I did my masters in economics, and while I was doing my masters, I had already joined the Economic Times as a full-time journalist. So my journalistic career began immediately with my graduation. So once my master's was done, I was already 2 years into journalism. So I continued with journalism for the next 10 years. And post that, I was with the Economic Times, Reuters, CNBC TV 18, India partner of New York Times, and senior editorial positions. And then I moved to the corporate side. And in the corporate side, I worked with Mr. Harsh Neotia in Ambuja Neotia, with Mr. Sanjeev Goenka in RPSG. At that point of time, it was RPG. So I was heading brand and corporate communications, and for the past 7 years, I have been working with this organization called M Junction. So M Junction is a Tata Steel and SAIL joint venture, and we are basically into B2B e-commerce, and we are the largest e-commerce company in India. So that is as far as my professional journey is concerned. Parallelly, my passion for writing never ended. I after I moved over to the corporate and left journalism. I, um I started writing a column for Economic Times on luxury. So my writing for luxury started with my stint at the New York Times, where I was editing their supplement on luxury. So I continued with that till today, and with the columns in the Economic Times, I thought it was time to put it together in one piece, because typically luxury uh, documentation of luxury is not there. What you get primarily is glorified uh, catalogs. So I started researching on history and all that, and the books came in and all. So that was my writing part of it. So I never left writing per se, and it went on. And still today, and I have a very rigorous writing regime. So I write every day. So every day from morning 6 o'clock to 7, I write. It doesn't need to be very targeted writing for an assignment or something like that, or an article or a paper. It is a practice that I've been following very judiciously and very religiously. Uh, that to write every day. Otherwise you don't develop as an author. So whatever comes to my mind, I write. Whether I feel like it or not. And usually I always feel like writing. So that's something. So on the educational background, I am an alumni of IIM Calcutta, an alumni of MICA. You would be knowing Mudra Institute of Communications, which is the best one in advertising and marketing. University of Calcutta, St. Xavier's College. Did my PhD in economics. My PhD was on stock market, movement of stock market on FDI and FII investments. 15-year study. Uh, and I'm an alumni of University of Cambridge Judge Business School. So that's about it. So I love to paint. I play golf, and that's about it. So that's my brief journey for you.
So that was really inspiring. Since you're an expert on luxury brands, my second question to you is that in a period of economic crisis, do you think that luxury brands suffer the same drop in sales as brands in general?
No, luxury brands have already, it is, it is a documented fact that luxury brands have taken a hit. And on the overall sales globally, there has been a drop of around 35 to 40% with the luxury brands. However, there are certain characteristics of luxury brands which are a little different from your premium brands and others. That typically what happens is you for luxury customers, for luxury clients, for luxury buyers, it is not always uh, that they are not buying because of lack of money. So it is also a mood buying. Okay, so while there has been a hit, it is not really the case with the richy rich completely, because if you see the Forbes list, the way it is moving, you'll see that the income of the richy rich is only growing even in this time. So that is the saving grace for luxury. So that is the that is the buying that is keeping the hope alive for the market. And also understand that while luxury buying is is also a mood dependent, and there is also a flaunt value of that. Uh, there's also a flaunt value to it. So perhaps people are not getting an opportunity to buy now, but the moment the markets open up, the moment the markets open up, then they'll rush for it, and you'll see a surge. If I replicate that into the premium buying market, you'll see that Amazon, the sales that they give, they have got the biggest of the sales in all these years. So while it is true that the economy has taken a hit and everything, people are dying to buy, people are dying to spend. People who can spend are dying to spend. So they are just waiting for an opportunity. And because luxury shopping is something that doesn't really happen online per se, and there is a luxury experience, so you walk into a luxury boutique, and you're treated like a king. You're offered a glass of champagne, or what have you, and sparkling water or something like that, and then you're shown your things on offer, and then simultaneously, these the boutique managers, they'll tell you stories of luxury brands and their history, and the craftsmanship and all that. So luxury buying is a total experience, and that cannot be replicated online as is. So yes, there has been a hit, but I am sure there will be a great recovery very soon.
Thank you, sir. Um, can you can you please tell us regarding the concept of strategic corporate communications?
You know, uh, so first for that, you need to understand that what is corporate communication. Now, in a corporate, communication plays a very critical role. Okay, and it plays a critical role in functioning of it, in in uh, in establishing its brand. You know, the establishment of brand, the making of the brand story is done through communication. So that story has many takers for an organization. So if I were to classify very simply for you, it would be, so you have internal stakeholders, which is your employees. So the communication that you do for that is internal comms, internal communications. You have your external stakeholders, which can be your shareholders. So if you are a listed company, then you have something called shareholder communication or a promoter communication. Okay. Now if sorry, you guys are media study students. So when you're handling media, so that is called a media communication. So you're handling journalists, you're handling editors. Now you understand that what I am communicating internally, what I'm communicating externally, what I'm communicating to media, what I'm communicating via digital media on social media platforms are all different. Even it may be the same news, it takes a lot of craftsmanship and a lot of strategy to modify it in such a way that the uh, that the target audience feels relevance of it. So suppose if so I'll give you an example. So for example, uh, I am addressing students of media studies. Okay, like your batch, or your students and all that with your faculty. Now tomorrow I'll be addressing students at IIT Kharagpur VG Som Business School. Now you guys are media study students. Those guys are management students. Now when I talk about strategic communication, it is essentially the same thing. But the way you package it is that you make it relevant. So when I tell you the story of strategic communication or storytelling in the corporate, I tell you from the perspective that will be relevant to you as media students. Now, if I replicate this tomorrow when I address the management students, they will not feel home. Okay. So they will feel alienated because they are not media study students. They understand management, so they understand operations, they understand corporate, they understand all that. So they need to understand the relevance of communication in the corporate. You guys need to understand the relevance of communication when you place it in the corporate. So therefore, when why it is called strategic communication, it's called strategic communication because whether you are B2B or B2C, every time you have to segregate your audience. So the communication that you're making to your internal audience, even if it is the same communication that you're making externally, which is not the case in most of the times, uh, so that packaging needs to be done so as to be made relevant to the consumer. So that's why it is called strategic communication. Okay, so for example, if I for example, a company is getting into a new geography. Okay, now this example of a company entering a new geography, how do you package it differently for the different categories of consumers of news? Now you understand that this now understand the implication of this news. So as media students, you also have to delve deeper and understand what is the implication of news. You have to learn to read between the lines and understand that if the company is saying that I'm getting into a new geography, it means the company is expanding, the company is financially well off, the company is feeling stable at its existing market, so trying to explore new markets, or the company understands that the market is saturated, the existing market, so it has to enter a new market. Okay, so these are the implications, and therefore it will entail some strategic collaboration of a local partner. So the company cannot independently go and attack a market outside India. So this story implies that there will be a local partner. There are expansion, so operational issues will be there. Okay, capex is a need, capital expenditure is a need. Okay, because you have to set up office and all that. Then there'll be people who will be sent there. Okay, then there'll be people who will be sent there to man that, or they'll be hiring locally. So this one line has so many implications. Okay, so as media students, you also have to think from a corporate perspective. See, the objective of communication is to help drive growth. Okay, so you have to understand that how through communication you are able to drive growth of the organization. And that can only happen when you understand that. So this news, when I reach out to media, I will package it in a way that company X is eyeing expansion. Okay, and looking at new geographies. So that will be the press release that will go. When it goes for digital marketing, I will not share the same news as I have shared with media. Okay, so I will only write that company X is expanding its horizons. Otherwise, media will not take it because it's already out. There is an exclusivity factor with media that you need to understand. Internally, you have to, take into confidence your internal stakeholders. So you have to share with them through a town hall or through a communication, via mail or otherwise, or via your journals, that the company X is expanding. Okay, so internal in one way through a channel like a journal, the like a quarterly newsletter or through an email or something like that. External through a press release via media. So that's a media part. Then you have to reach out to your shareholders or your stakeholders, and then externally tell them that this is the strategy that we are thinking. So if they are your direct promoters, you have to also communicate what is the strategy behind it, rationale behind it, cost, capex, and a lot of things. So once your board approves this expansion, then you have to draw, a charter plan and also communicate those details to them. So strategic communication. Now imagine if you are not able to communicate it efficiently. So while the company is expanding and it's a good story, it can, turn into a negative story. It can be twisted into a story because if you choose not to communicate. So suppose you're silent and people come to know that there is something happening outside India, the first thing they'll think is that why is the company not out with it? One reason may be that the company is not doing well in India. So journalists are supposed to think like that. Shareholders are supposed to think like that. And that keeps it going. Okay. So communication plays a very, very key role in how you tell a corporate story. Okay. So that corporate story makes a difference, makes the brand or breaks the brand. Uh, you know, in any circumstances, whether it is a B2B or B2C, in India or abroad. That's why you see that the role of communicators in organizations are increasing. People have reached top management positions, and they're also board level appointments for communicators, because today it is a very critical part. It plays a very critical part in running the growth engine of the company. Earlier it was thought of, something of a like a necessary evil. So whether you need it or you don't need it, no, but you need to have a Corpcom department. Let's have it. So it was considered like that, but it's not like that anymore. For the past almost 7-8 years, internationally, you will see that corporate communicators are, you know, rising the ranks because of that. So that is the opportunity for you guys, in media studies, to understand the importance of the role of communication in running of a corporate. And for that, besides communications, you also need to understand the corporate and the corporate structure. See, I am an MBA. Now the point is that you don't have to be an MBA for that. You just have to pay a little bit more attention in the different structures of the corporate. Okay. So that's basically strategic communications for you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you are a journalist, filmmaker, actor, author, and a painter. Can you give us some tips on self management?
Give you some tips on what?
Self management.
Self management. Oh,
Yes, sir.
I can guide you on time management. I Self management is something that I don't think I'm able to manage myself well, but I do try. Uh, so I can give you some tips on time management maybe. So I'll do that. So see, the thing is, we all have our set of duties that we do. We all have our personal lives, and at the same time, we have our passions. Okay. Now, the thing is, it is very important for everybody to not let go of their passions, because that's what separates us from it, machines. Machines are efficient. Efficiency is a characteristic of a machine. It's not a characteristic of a human. So it's very important to have those human faculties alive, while you are able to do your duties successfully. So, you know, my case is that I have I am very careful in terms of my time management. So as I said, I write every day, and I'm a very ardent believer in discipline. Okay, so I am extremely disciplined in terms of my creative work. So that's why uh, I do not, I do not very randomly structure them. While thoughts and ideas keep coming, but more or less I plan when I want my book out. I take it as a project, and I give myself time and execute it. Uh, and as I said, I write every day. I write every day in the morning, and that's barring the days where I go out to play golf. That's how I spend my morning, because I start my work very early. My office work, I start very early. I started at 8:15 in the morning. So that I can end it by 6. So after 6, I spend time with my family. I read. I do. And I love to study. I love to research. I love to study, and that's something that I keep doing along with everything. So recently my Calcutta course got over and all that. So that the essence behind time management is that be focused on what you're doing right now. So if Shawnee, I'm talking to you, I am not really I am not really. My mind is not really into uh, my office work or my writing. So when I am talking to you, I have dedicated this time to this adda, and I'm here with you 100%. So similarly, when I'm at office and I'm doing office work, or rather working from home at this point of time. So when I'm doing office work, I am completely dedicated to that. So when I am doing office work, I don't think about my writing or my other passions like painting. I paint on Sundays. So no matter how strange it might sound, but I have a schedule, and I follow a schedule very very strictly. I go to sleep very early, and get up pretty early. So I follow my schedule very very strictly, and that discipline and that scheduling has helped me you know uh, get my passion, the fodder, the water, whatever it needs to grow and to flourish, along with my professional career, along with my be it acting, or be it painting, or be it writing. I have a schedule for that, and whenever that happens, I try to structure it in a very it's very corporate, I know, but the point is that I don't take creative liberties except when I'm writing. So I only take creative liberties in my writing, not in my lifestyle. So in my lifestyle, I am extremely structured and boring, and scheduled completely. So I only take creative liberties when I am through my writing or through my painting, but not or while I'm acting or making a film, but not in terms of time management.
Thank you, sir.
Well,
That was really helpful.
Thank you. Hi, Shubhrajit. Good to see you.
hi. It's really nice. I mean, the way you explain, sorry, the way you explain the corpcom, is very helpful for all the students, those who are watching. So, students and all the faculty members, we all are very responsible citizens. When I say responsibility, then I think we should talk a little bit about corporate social responsibility. So, sir, I just want to know, can you put some idea about the concept of CSR, how CSR is practicing by the companies in the contemporary world? Just an idea.
Sure. Uh, See, I have been very lucky to be a part of an organization, the Tata Group, where our founder, Mr. J.N. Tata, had said that the reason behind the existence of business is for the welfare of the community. Okay, so that is the ethos from where the Tata Group operates, as far as CSR is concerned, and we in Junction, being a part of that group, we follow the same ethos. Okay, so I will not be able to comment on other organizations because that is not in my domain. But as you know, that government-wise, there is a mandate of a 2% spend in CSR, and that's a mandated compulsory spend that you have to do of 2% of your bottom line. The 3-year average of your bottom line, you have to spend 2% of that towards and you know the it is very structured in terms of what defines CSR in the mandate of the government. So so when you spend for CSR, you have to be uh, uh, very careful in terms of where you are spending, because what you are spending needs to qualify as CSR, and it has to be under certain heads. So you have to put it under certain heads to be considered as part of CSR. Now, CSR, while it is true that there have been uh, the responsibility part has not been extremely uh, universal, and it is more looked at as an accounting need in very limited number of companies, and that's why the government is basically making it more and more stringent, for every organization to actually invest in CSR, what they're showing in their accounting. So more and more stringent norms are being implemented because of certain uh, accounting creativity that has been seen by the government, by observed by the government in some companies independently. But as far as social responsibility is concerned, I think it has to be in the DNA of the company
Absolutely.
to be responsible socially. And it's not only through CSR that you show your social responsibility. Saying no to plastic is not a CSR, but it's a social responsibility.
Absolutely.
Just doing away with plastic bottles in your office, it's not CSR, but it's a social responsibility. So that way, social responsibility is something which has to be, in the ethos of the organization from day one. If it is not there, then you have a mandated 2% spend that you have to do.
You have to do.
Uh,
That's the
so
mandate.
so so CSR, corporate social responsibility, is only a part. The way corporate social responsibility is defined. That is only a part of the social responsibility of the organization. And every organization, especially the leaders of the organization, need to think that way. That corporate social responsibility is a part, and not and that small bit of 2% is not the whole of your social responsibility as a corporate entity.
So responsibility and revenue generation has to be directly proportional. Proportional is
Yes,
what?
yes, yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so you are an author. You authored few books. I would like to call our dean, Dr. Madhupa Bakshi, to please come on stage and you can put some light on those books which you have written. Good to you, ma'am. Ma'am, you're muted.
I'll request Shubhrajit to be there for you for a few minutes because we talk about. Can you show us the books that he has written? He's written 4 books, right, on luxury brands, and he talks about mythic value of luxury. Um, and would you explain that as we see the
Right,
titles of
right,
your books?
right. So, Madhuba, good to see you. And
Good to
we
see
should
you.
definitely plan something at your campus once things get a little
Absolutely.
better. So I look forward to that. So this is the last trilogy that Shubhodip is showing. So this is my second book, Dark Lux. The first one is Decoding Lux, and the latest that has come out is is this book called Lux Inferno, which I'm sure Shubhodip will show. So coming back to the mythic value of luxury, Madhupa, the thing is, uh, this is a concept that I have developed. So I'm very happy that I've developed this concept. So it is basically this mythic value is derived from an anthropological concept of mythic value developed by Claude Levi Strauss, and from that anthropological concept, I have kind of put it across in applied it in luxury brand. So I'll explain what it
Okay.
is in very, very quickly. See, what happens is, uh, if you study myth, and I have studied myth, and if you study myth, you'll see that the reason that myths have survived time is because they are an embodiment of. So this is Quarantine. This is my fourth book, which was written and released during the quarantine when we were in the lockdown in April.
Now I've got to ask you the secret of writing so fast, because
Yeah,
as a scholar, as professors also, we are supposed to write. But
yeah.
trust me, that doesn't happen. So I
No,
would
actually,
love to ask you,
so
once
yeah,
you
yeah.
are,
So,
we when we sit down for a longish adda,
yes,
and
yes.
with the students, because the students need to write also, and it is a them. On that note, can I bring on another author, and may I ask Neha to give an introduction to bring on another stellar personality in the show?
Um, Hello and good evening, everybody. So, a writer, an entrepreneur, an IIT and IIM alumnus, and a brand guru. Our next guest wears many hats. A nawab of advertising and marketing. We look forward to soaking up everything like a sponge. He is also the founder of brandbuilding.com, and for God's sake, we couldn't be more excited to have him with us, and we look forward to a new spring. Ladies and gentlemen, I take great pleasure in welcoming Dr. Ambi Parameshwaran.
Glad to be here.
So we start off with your newest baby.
Oh
Am I
wow!
am I showing the book?
Yeah,
Yes,
here it is. Let me also show it. I
yes,
think you
yes.
bookmarked
We
it.
have your.
You bookmarked
Yes, I
it.
bookmark it. Yes,
I'm
I
I'm
bookmarked.
already getting scared.
Yes, yes, because you're going to answer and you're going to tell me what is a rejection resume.
Oh, okay. You want to start with that? So let me first thank uh, the Heritage group for inviting me here. Thank you, um, Madhupa Bakshi, or should I call you Professor Bakshi, for inviting me here.
Call me
Happy to be
Madhupa,
here.
please. Call me Madhupa,
Madhupa,
please.
so thank you for inviting me here. So
Sir,
happy to be
glad to
here.
be glad to hear. Neha and we both attended the last year's conference, that World Conference on Advertising, the AAA conference, and both of our we all met you at the conference. So
Okay,
we
great.
were planning from that time that when can you? Of course, we thought we could bring you to campus, but because of these times, this is the best that we can do.
No, good. So Kolkata is my. I love Kolkata, so I always use an occasion. I don't miss an occasion to visit Kolkata. So I will be there, but maybe after all this is kind of died down a bit, and
Sure.
so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me and doing this great event. I think you've got some fabulous speakers. Some of them
Yes.
I
Yes.
have the
Lucky.
privilege of
We are
knowing.
lucky. We are blessed.
Yeah, I know them. I know some of them very well. In fact, both Balki and Prahlad have endorsed my Nawab Nudes Noodles book, and the quote is there on the
Yes.
cover of the book.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And all
thank you very much.
I've read that book, and I often refer to that book to my students. And I would also like to bring in here. There's another author whom we had been talking about. You know him also, Mahul. Mahul had been talking about luxury.
Hi, Ambi. Good to see you.
Hi, Maul. So nice to meet you. So,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely. A pleasure.
Yes. So, Ambi, would you like to talk about your new book?
okay. So, thank you. My new book, which is called Spring, Bouncing Back from Rejection, and this book, in fact, was triggered at at a talk I gave, actually on my Sponge book, a little over 2 years ago at a university in in Bhopal, Jagran Lake University. And after I finished my talk, and there were a lot of questions from the audience, and there was one girl from the back of the audience who had her hand up. So finally, we managed to get to her, and we asked her what the question. And normally what happens is the mic doesn't travel. People grab the mic. So finally, the mic reached her, and so she said, "Look, you have had a good education. You had great career. You had the opportunity to meet some very smart people, and you learned a lot. But we are at our early stage. We are very worried about rejection. And what can you tell us about facing rejection?" So I'd finished a 1 hour, 40-minute talk, and I'd answered a fair bit of questions. So, her question got me thinking, and I started talking extempore. Almost 10 minutes I spoke. And at the end of which, I don't know what happened, they all stood up and gave me a standing ovation. Now, my book talk, which lasted 40 minutes, did not get a standing ovation. It got a decent ovation. Nothing, like a standing ovation. So in the standing ovation, I said, "Look, what's happening here?" So a month later, I was at IIM Calcutta accepting my Distinguished Alumnus Award, and I had to give an acceptance speech. So I tested that hypothesis, and I started talking about rejection in that talk as well. And even there, I got a very, very warm, and IIM Calcutta, they don't clap unless it is Jeff Bezos himself speaking to them. So, Prashant Mishra will tell you that they're a bit of a skeptical lot. But they actually clapped and cheered me, and I said, "Look, there is something interesting happening." So I floated it with my agent, who thought it was a good idea. They spoke to Westland, my publisher, and they green lighted it, and then I started writing it. So I said, "Look, I've written enough about Pepsi Bulka. I've written enough about my own advertising career." And I said, "Let me not kind of rehash the whole thing once again." So when I started researching for this book, I started reading. One of the joy of writing a book, and I think, all the other authors here will confirm that, is that you actually spend a lot of time reading. So I read up a lot. I started making my notes. And then I said, if I'm going to have, let's say, 20 chapters in the book, I'm going to have only 2 chapters about my life in FC Ulka, and I'll go back and I'll write about whatever I remember. And at least 10 of the chapters will not be about me. It will be about people whom I met or people whom I read about. So I actually interviewed a number of people. I interviewed a very, very senior bureaucrat who was a very, very senior industry leader, continues to be a very big industry leader. Interviewed an Olympian, former Olympian, Viren Resquina, who's captain of the Indian hockey team. I interviewed a very senior academic, Ranjan Banerjee. I interviewed startup entrepreneurs who struggled to make it a success. And I interviewed a number of people. And all that I started collecting, and then I started kind of putting the pieces together. Literature told me about certain concepts, like don't take it personally. Psychologists say that one of the worst things you should do is to take the rejection personally. What has been rejected is not you. Maybe your CV has been rejected. Maybe a proposal has been rejected. Maybe a project has been rejected, but it's not you. So don't take it personally. There's another important concept called inner critic. Every one of us has an inner critic. And the inner critic is always telling you, this Facebook live thing, you're going to blow it, right? Your network is going to crash. You're going to make a mess of it. And there is an inner critic, telling me, you're making a mess of it. But you need to silence the inner critic and continue. The inner critic is playing a good role, because the inner critic is warning you about, there's a pothole coming, and there's a tree fallen on the road, etc., etc. So you need to silence inner critic and get on with it. So all these are interesting concepts I pulled out. I started linking these concepts with the stories I read and the stories I picked up. And then the book then fell together. And well, I've written 10 books. This is my 10th book, and people say that how do you write 10 books? I tell people,
Exactly.
I'm quite old, right? I mean, unlike your previous
On that on that
guest,
note, Mahul is still there. Mahul is still there. So I'll bring both of you the same. How do
Mahul,
you,
listen,
Mahul?
Mahul is a young guy, and I'm an old guy, so I've been writing. People say, how did you write 10 books? I said, look, boss, I've been writing books for the last 20 years. My first book came out in the year 2000, right? And about every 2 years, I write a book. So when you look at it that way, it's no big deal. I think Mahul has written more books in what, 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
Yes,
Oh yes.
yes. As professors, we are also supposed to write. We can't, but one paper takes almost 1 year, 1.5 to 2 years to write. So
Yeah,
when we,
but Madhupa, I have devoted a full chapter to academic rejection, right? And
oh yes, you have. I've seen
okay,
that.
and I've talked about how the peer review process is
Yes.
Right. Right. Right.
such a tough process that a lot of academics give up. But
Right.
in my other talk, I mentioned this. Someone I know has done an analysis of the 20 papers he's written in the last 4 or 5 years. And he's analyzed and he found that he's written 20 papers, right? But the papers which got the best paper award or the most outstanding paper award, out of the 20 papers, 5 papers have got that award. All the 5 papers have been rejected at least once. So he says, you can submit a paper, it goes through, good, I'm relieved it has gone through, but it's not going to win any award, right? But if I submit a paper and it gets rejected, and you get peer review comments saying this is good, this is not good, and I start working on it, then I know this has a potential of becoming a best paper award winner. So in the academic process of publishing is very, very different from what mortals
Absolutely,
like you
absolutely.
and Mehul are doing. So very different game.
Why would you? I have gone through the book, and you have talked of rejection resumes. You have talked of Tiwari Nitin Tiwari, which I found very interesting. The way the resume, because my students are all in the process of crafting their resume. What would you tell them?
In a sense, crafting the resume or about rejection.
Crafting your resume, both, because they go through rejection also, and when they're writing their resumes, and especially in the creative industry, what should they what should they be keeping in mind?
Well, you have to keep in mind that the person who's going to read it is not going to spend too much time, right? And therefore, I've told this little story in my book about Nitish Tiwari. I don't need to tell you who he is. He's a guy who directed Dangal, and he was a young, uh, I think, IIT Bombay civil engineer, and he said, "Look, I don't want to do civil engineering. I want to become a writer." And he wrote, in those days, he wrote a handwritten, this is I think 1999, no, 1998, yeah, 98, 97, 98. So he wrote a handwritten letter saying, I'm an IIT BTech. I want to join an advertising agency. I want to become a Hindi copywriter. I can write Hindi very well. And he attached, 4 or 5 poems which he'd written. Now it came to me, my Hindi is not very good, but I said, yeah, this guy is interesting, because IIT wanting to be a copywriter, um, and then I started reading those poems which he had submitted, and they started. It was interesting. Then I shared it with 2 of my colleagues who knew fluent Hindi, and they said, "Yeah, this guy is interesting. Isko to hire karna chahiye." So I called him for an interview, and I told him, "Look, he already had a job, I think, with some big IT company, either TCS or something like that." So I said, "Look, yeah, Nitish, you're getting a damn good job that pays you very well. I will have to take you as a copy trainee. Copy trainees are paid very little, but I guarantee you do well. Within 2 years, you'll get whatever you are getting, and you'll probably get more." So he said, "Sir, मुझे start करना है." अच्छा, चलो, आ जाओ. Then I said, And I had to warn him. And apparently, he has told this in other speeches, saying I scared him out of a job. But I didn't scare him. I just told him reality. Yeah, that's me. But when he came, and then he came in, and I think within a month he's very hungry for work. He started, and then one day I called him and I said, "Look, Nitish, you wrote to me. It came to me. I opened the envelope. How many agencies did you write to?" He said, "Sir, I wrote to 10 agencies."
Wow.
Did you know anyone? He said, "No, मैं एक दिन गया and I went to every agency and I dropped his envelope." Literally, he went to 10 different offices, dropped the envelope, and then curiosity got to me, and I said, "How many called you?" He said, "Only you, sir." So I said, "Wow. So what would you have done if I had not called?" He said, "Sir, I would have gone again to 10 more agencies with envelopes and I've gone and given it." मुझे तो यही करना था. And you called me, my luck, your luck, I think it was our luck. I mean, he did great work for 5 years. He was there in the agency, did great work. And then he went to Loeb, which was across the road. And he went to Leopold. And he became a... so I think getting a job, and I've talked about this, what is the shade of rejection? I talked about a person, I didn't want to reveal his name, who was referred to me by a dear friend saying, "Give him a job." At that time, I didn't have a job to give him. He was working in a small ad agency. He wanted to join us in client servicing. So I could not say no to my friends. I said, "Yeah, I'll meet him." So he called me and I said, "I'm very tied up. Can you call me next month?" This guy called me the next month. I said, "Yeah, I'm still tied up. Can you call me next month?" And this happened for 6 months. But he didn't give up. At the end of 6 months, I said, "Yeah, okay, come for a meeting." So he came and met me. And just that week, someone had resigned. And there was an opening in our direct marketing division. So he came and he joined, and then he did very well. Now he's a very, very highly respected CMO. I didn't want to reveal his name because I didn't want to embarrass him that he kept calling me 6 months for a job. So you have to be at it. Getting a job in this environment is not going to be easy. So that is one. The other thing, in your resume, you will write good stuff, which you should, all your big achievements. But at the back of your mind, you got to remember your rejections and what you learned from the rejection. So, in normal interviews, you are asked, can you tell us 3 things which you did, which you're very proud of? And you say that, I did this, I wrote this article, which got published in Telegraph. I saw Telegraph, AVP is your partner. So I have some very good friends there. So thank you. I got this published in Telegraph, or, I went and I compared this show, which went very well, or I acted in a play. Then the next question the interviewer could ask you is, tell us about your failures and what did you learn from those failures? Be ready for that question, because sometimes the person you're interviewing stumbles and he says, "No, I've never faced any failure in my life." Now that's a giveaway, which means this guy doesn't even understand what is a failure, which means he's not ready, right? So you got to think back and say, look, these are my successes, these are my failures or rejections. Why did I succeed? And more importantly, why did I fail? And what did I learn from my failures? So that's what the rejection resume I think is all about. That you got to. I don't think you should send your rejection resume to any company. You will not be called. But if you go to an interview, you should have a rejection resume at the back of your mind to say, look, these are the 3 things which I did, and I failed. And I failed for these reasons. And thinking back, these are the lessons I learned from my failure. So if you have that, you are set. You're on your way to becoming better and better. Yeah.
On one last question before Neha shoots off, and this is related to your book only. You talk about yourself having a stellar rejection history. What do you mean by that? Nobody can believe the person who has been there at the helm of everything could have a rejection history.
Well, I've written about them, right? I've written about them in my book. This is a myth. In fact, the other day we were doing a Tata Literature Live with Anil Darkar, Anuradha Sen Gupta, and Harish Bhatt. And Anil Darkar asked Harish, saying, Harish, what do you know about rejection? When did you face rejection? So Harish said, hello, I have faced more than enough shares of rejections. Everyone who's successful has faced rejection. Whether it is, Mahatma Gandhi, whether it is APJ Abdul Kalam, and I've written about, Jeffrey Archer, whose book, Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less, which has sold gazillion copies, was rejected by 16 publishers. J.K. Rowling was rejected 12 times. Beatles were rejected by Decca, saying that, boy bands are dead. Stephen King, the horror writer, was rejected. The guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, Jack Cranfield, he was rejected 144 times, I'm told. Everyone has been rejected. I was rejected. In fact, the first chapter I talk about how I applied to Hindustan Lever from IIT, and I did a very bad job in the interview. And again at IIM Calcutta, I applied for Hindustan Lever for summer internship, and I blew it, right? And they were right. They didn't take me because I gave up. I was not thinking on my feet. So you will get rejected. I have faced rejection enough times, right? I've written 3 books, but I've written that, my first book, which is a collection of cases, a very well-meaning friend sent it to a very big professor at Northwestern University who read the book, in a sense, 5 or 6 chapters, 5 or 6 cases, and he sent a mail back saying, I wonder which publisher will print this book, because this looks like promotional literature for the agency. But I was lucky, I managed to contact Tata McGraw-Hill, they published the book. So all of us have faced rejection. I mean, it may look as if we've been successful from day one, but no, never. Everyone has faced rejection. I've talked about Viren Esquina, who went on to captain the Indian Olympic team. He was not picked for the Maharashtra team when he was a youngster, right? And he was playing for the India under 17 or something, but he was not picked for the Maharashtra team. But he says, yeah, that's okay, because they probably had better players in those positions I play in, and I was willing to wait. So all of us, I'm sure, Madhupa, you faced enough rejection, and every one of us have faced.
Do I have to tell those stories live, Facebook Live? No, I don't have to, right?
You can if you want to. If you want to inspire your students to say, look, don't worry about rejection.
The very fact that I started as a school teacher and I left the job, and that was a good school, South Point School, and left that job and started in an agency, almost begging my professor that I want to work in an agency and I don't want to teach. And the reaction at home was terrible. My father walked into the agency and met the owner, my boss, and told him, why does she need to work here? So yes, consistently failure is part of life, and as you say, this is a difficult time. In our childhood, we had resource constraints. All of us had resource constraints, and as we stepped into 2000, as in the 1990s, those resource constraints went away. But again, probably there would be there, and my students need to be inspired from people like you. Therefore, Neha, can I call on Neha? Neha has a series of questions. Neha, now you can fire your questions.
Ma'am, honestly, I am so excited to ask all of this because, ma'am, I honestly like Ambi sir's here, but he just seems old physically, but at his mind he's so young, and I mean I can relate to him everything that he talked about, the rejections and about this his inner critique and being silencing your inner critique. All of that is so relevant even today, like for us, for people who are looking like away from industry like in a year or two, so that way. So I do have a few questions for you if you're here. So am I audible?
Yeah.
All
Yes.
right.
Yes, please.
All right. So, you've written several books. I'd like to ask you a question here. So, what's your interesting quirk while you write books, and what's that one thing that nobody knows about your writing? Like that one special quirk that is there.
Uh, you know, I started, like I said, I started writing. My first book came out in the year 2000, and I probably started writing. What came out in 2000. I probably started writing in 1996 or 97, and probably the first 5 books I have written using a fountain pen. Which probably people of your generation don't even recognize it. So let me try and show one. Okay. So this is a fountain pen, right? Um, and
So,
I've written. Yeah, this looks pretty worn out, right? But this is one of those Lamy pens. Um, so I have a collection of about 10 of them, and I used
wow.
to write. I used to write with a fountain pen in a spiral bound book. You know what a spiral bound book is, right? I mean, that I
Yes, sir,
hope
yes, yeah.
nowadays everyone's become digital. So I remember once, uh, I think in 2002 or 3, I was in my office and I had my pad open and I had this pen open and I was writing something on it. Uh, and my creative director at that time, Ramesh Ravindranath, he walks in, he looks at me and he said, Ambi, you're writing with a fountain? So I said, yeah. He said, wow. And he said, I find it difficult to even write. Yeah. I said, what do you mean? He said, no, I'm so used to keying stuff in that, my handwriting is gone for a 6. And I'm amazed. I said, yeah, I love writing with a fountain. So those days, I think the first 5 or 6 books, I used to write in a spiral bound notebook. Then I used to go to my office, give it to my assistant. I've had some wonderful assistants who's then sit and decode my writing and key it in and give me the printout and I start correcting it and all that. So I think first 5 books or 6 books were written like that. And I love the feeling of writing with a fountain pen on a spiral bound notebook. The joy is great. So I've done that sitting at home. I've done that sitting in my office. I've done that sitting in an aircraft, writing. I've done that sitting in my car. Of course, I was not driving, but writing stuff. So writing with a fountain pen on a spiral bound notebook has been my one quirk, which now it's gone. Now I'm into keying it in, and now I even learned um, how to do editing and do this. 5 years ago, I figured out this whole thing about track change and stuff like that. So now I do it on Word, but I still miss my old uh, fountain pens. I still have them. I miss writing with them on a good old fashioned spiral bound notebook. So it's great fun. I think you guys should, youngsters here should.
So honestly, when you say about fountain pens, I remember when I was in class 3, when we just started writing with pens, as our teachers used to just say to use the fountain pen, and that used to be like, oh my god, like we have pens like this too. Like I've always seen this normal. I had this intrigue thing for pens, and then we used to play along, and then all the ink used to just go away. So I think after one point of time, I just stopped writing because we weren't you. I've also seen those quail with the feathers, these like the ink pens, the ink pads, those of that. But yes, I've never really used. But when you say that you've written 5 books on with the fountain pen, that is so great. I mean, that's really a quirk, I would say. All right, sir.
Yeah, but that was the norm, right? What your generation calls a quirk for many decades was the norm. That everyone used to write with a fountain pen, and I had not
They
got into
can't
fountain
believe.
pen.
We still, if given a chance, we will still write with fountain pen because the writing
Yeah,
is so good.
yeah. I
So
got fascinated. I got fascinated with fountain pen once again in 1997 or so when I saw an ad for a Parker duofold fountain pen. I don't know, Madhu, whether you without seeing that I use it.
That was the first gift I got. That was the first gift, I guess. Class after class 10. That was the first gift
Yeah,
I
it's
got.
actually
Mahul is saying that he still writes. Please bring Mahul on screen.
Yeah, you can see it in my pocket now also. I mean, I'm an active kind of, diary, notebook maintainer and writer and all that. So I just, everything is written in fountain pen. And you have stacks of
wow.
books. So I
Wow.
write it. All my stacks of diaries and all that. So I still use it very actively.
No, I still have diaries. I still have these mini diaries which I carry in my pocket and all that. But I key it in. I got fascinated with the fountain pen. My love started once again.
All you can see, all fountain pen writing.
Nice. So,
I
but
won't be
Mahul,
able to do that.
do you write your on fountain pen or do you key it in?
Come again, Ambi. I missed you.
So, do you write your entire book with a fountain pen or do you key it in?
No, what I do is that, when I am structuring the stories, so I'll tell you, actually a previous question that Madhupa asked me on Quarantine, my latest book, which I think finished in 12 days or something like that, and released within the lockdown period, wrote and released both online, of course. But, what I do initially is that this, with a notebook and my fountain pen, I craft the entire structure of the book. So be it fiction or non-fiction, that drafting, is done. That entire planning is done through a fountain pen. So if I'm writing a story, the pointers of the story, the characters, their idiosyncrasies and everything, the plot, everything is written. But when I am actually putting it down, I do it on the computer, on Word. That I'm comfortable. So that is, I think, my journalistic habit of actually writing on Word. But as far as the planning stage is concerned, for fiction, non-fiction, and I have been very lucky that I have written academic journal for academic journals. I have written articles, obviously, as a journalist, and all that. So I have done all those kind of writings. But every time, what I do is that I, through using my notebook and a pen, I chart the entire thing out. So even if I'm writing an article, I will chart out a plan for it. So what will be the introduction? What will be the body? In the body, what will be the points that I'll be talking about, and in the conclusion. So, for example, for this discussion that we are having, because these guys are media students, so I charted a few pointers. While I'm not referring to those pointers, but those pointers basically help me in understanding what will be relevant to them. And so, if I forget, I can always refer to them. So I write like crazy a lot.
Obviously, you're a
Good
journalist.
tip.
No,
Thank
I was
you, Mahul,
saying
for
something.
the.
Mahul,
Yeah.
Madhupa, I'm saying, let me tell you this little story. I started using ball pens, and then I forgot. I mean, I was not using fountain pens. Still in 1997, I came across an ad for Parker Duofold. Okay, this was written by Neil French in Singapore, and I read the series of ads, and I fell in love with that. And then I went and got myself a Parker Duofold, a black Parker Duofold. I still have it inside. And then that got me, I don't know why, I went crazy. After that, every 3-4 months, I used to buy an expensive fountain pen. Right? So this Mont Blanc, and Waterman,
Yep.
and this and that, and all that. And that went on for a few years. Then we had a wonderful art director, a creative director, in fact, Anna Godbole, Avinash Godbole. And once I saw him using this Lamy pen.
Lamy pen.
So I sat with Anna. I said, Anna, ये क्या पेन है? He said, हम भी ये Lamy है यार, बहुत अच्छा है. इसमें different nib आता है, and he's a brilliant illustrator. So he drew something, and then I said, shit, this is interesting, man. So then I went and I started collecting. I mean, those days you didn't get Lamy pens in India, so you had to buy them when you go abroad, right?
Right.
So I bought different colors, the transparent one, the black, the red, the steel, and I got, I think, how many? I don't know. How many of them? Quite a few lying around.
Neha, did you notice that it was advertising that got him to buy a pen?
Yeah, I'm
So,
crazy that way. I worked in advertising, but I've allowed advertising to make a fool out of me. I went and bought my bloody tag watch because I like the advertising of the tag watch. Right? So I'm stupid.
So
You know,
obviously,
That
when
question.
I have my own collection of writing instruments as well, which includes mechanical pencils as well. So I collect pencils as well.
you're worse than me.
So pencil and fountain pen, both I am very.
Now, your next question. Your next
like, I can
question.
we can go on with the fountain because I'm so much interested in stationery, so we can just go on talking about fountain pens and all the kinds of pens. But yeah, we should go on to the next question. All right. So this is to Ambi sir. Sir, how would you define the building of a brand and how strategies have evolved from what they used to be and what they are now? What is the core of brand recognition in your opinion?
That's a long one. Shorten it.
Yeah, all right, I'll do that. Sir, how
No,
would
no,
you
no.
define?
Why are you troubling her? Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
Just bully.
yeah, this is a typical professorial thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me like I think Professor Bakshi is saying, when I'm speaking to Neha, I could say Professor Bakshi, Dr. Bakshi. But, you know, your brand, there's some fun, the world around us is changing. Some fundamentals about brands continue, right? Uh, in fact, Naomi Klein wrote a book called No Logo, which was, I think, published in the year 1999, where she said, look, today consumers know that what they buy as brands are actually products made in sweatshops in China. So why will anyone pay $55 for a Nike shoe when she knows this product was bought from China for $5? And so she said no logo. She said, therefore, in the next 2-3 years, consumers will figure out we don't need brands. All we need are products which perform a role, and the brands will die. But interestingly, in the year 2 years after this book came out, Economist published a cover story called Pro Logo, and they wrote saying, "Look, brands are there not because we as manufacturers make money out of brands. Brands are there because consumers love brands." And of course, Mahul will talk about how luxury brands, are there and people love them and are willing to pay a ridiculous amount of money. But even if you take a common brand like a soap or shampoo or a toothpaste, consumers like what brands do for them. It saves them the headache. It saves them the trouble that you don't need to go and search for a pack of tea or search for a soap or search for a shampoo. You bought, let's say, Sunsilk last time, you liked it, you go back blindly pick up. So brands are actually saving consumers time, effort, and in a sense money, because time is money. So brands will continue. I don't think brands are going to go away. But if you look at the way brands were communicating, when I entered advertising in 1979, brands used to communicate through newspapers, magazines, a little bit of cinema, some amount of Bharati, radio, and outdoor. That's it. Right? But today, the way brands communicate, there are multiple options. And so the job of a brand team has become very, very complicated. It's got more complicated now because of trolls. You need to keep an eye out for every message you put out, because what you put out may be offensive to someone. And
Yes, yes,
so you apologize to that guy. Someone else will say,
yes.
why did you apologize to him? You had no business apologizing to him. Right? So you have this huge cacophony going on. So you got
Right.
to find the middle ground and take your brand across. But brands will continue. The way we communicate our brand stories to consumers will keep changing. Just as it changed from print to TV and from TV to digital and social media, it will keep changing. And while they say that ad agencies are dinosaurs and they'll die, etc., but the fact is these dinosaurs invented a lot of things we call media today. Like these dinosaurs invented soap opera. uh, soap opera, all of us don't even think how the name originated. Soap opera is a name which was created because the original concept of a soap opera was thought of by Procter and Gamble on radio to convert play into radio play. They were sponsored by Procter and Gamble soap brands, brands like MA and and that's how the soap opera name came. So advertising agencies and clients have invented media, whether it is soap opera, sponsorships, advertising funded programming, etc., were all created uh, by ad agencies and by. So the way you communicate will keep changing. I don't know. I think Mahul can add to this, but I think maybe 10, 15 years, 20 years from now, what we do to advertise brands will become extremely different from what it is today. Like, this whole thing about product placement. I was watching this series on I think Hotstar, which had Shukmita Sen driving around. Forget the name of the series. Driving around right through the film, an Audi Q5 or Audi Q7. Now so prominent in that series, and I said, look, did they pay them? Did Audi pay them? Did Audi give them a car? Because it's
Right,
smart,
right, right.
so much of that, So these kind of things will start happening. That today it's happening in a small way, but going forward, when a person writes a script, he'll give it to an ad guy who will say, okay, you're going to wear this shirt. So I'll find a shirt sponsor. I'll find a soft drink sponsor. I'll find this, I'll find that. And I will probably offset our production cost. 30% will come from these product
Right,
placements,
right.
right? And that's going to happen. And you'll not even know that has happened. The consumer will think that, Shishmita Sen likes Audi. The fact is, Audi car was given to the producer, and she drove around. So different kinds of brand communication will come, and it will keep coming. Like, I don't know if you might have seen that BMW about 15 years ago did a series of short films. It's there available on
Yeah, yeah.
YouTube, called The Hire. The series called The Hire. Each is, I think, a 5 or a 7 minute film, directed by the top directors. Johnny Woo and Madonna's husband. I forget his name.
Guy Ritchie.
Guy Ritchie, right? Guy Ritchie. Madonna starred in that. I think who's the actor, Mahul? The guy who plays the role of a driver.
I forgot.
Okay. In fact, he was also cast for James Bond.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
didn't get the.
He didn't
So
get it right.
that was done, and those days before YouTube. So those videos were put on BMW website, and they promoted it. People went and saw it, and they gave away DVDs in their showrooms. And the next year, they entered it for awards at Cannes,
Awards.
saying,
Yes, yes.
what we did. And they made 4 films, and the
Right.
Cannes jury rejected the entry. Cannes jury said this is not advertising.
Right.
And the next year, Cannes jury came back and said, we are sorry, we made a mistake. This is advertising. They gave a Grand Prix award to BMW and their agency. I think it was Fallon. Right? So new ways of advertising will come. So that is my long answer to your long question.
Yeah, and I'll just add to Ambi's this thing. So Can Lion is some, they are that way. They are very open. I mean, initially they have their issues because they're very strict in their this thing. But this was a case which I think opened their eyes, because this forced them, because of the response of that innovative advertising that was not taken up earlier. Now you will see short films. Products are making short films to send across their message, doing human interest short films. Emotionally tingling your thing to set their brand story and all that. But at that point of time, it was a very innovative thing, which even to Can was so new that they kind of said no to it. But you're absolutely right. What is happening is there is an evolution. The way it started off and the way it is. But as far as dream merchants are concerned, you will have their role in whichever format it is in the future. So these guys who are making the trend, they will keep making new trends. You're just because your old trend is getting obsolete, it doesn't mean that the trend setter is also getting obsolete. The trend setter will invent new trends. So it's like an iPhone. You have your new iPhone every year. It doesn't mean that iPhone is going obsolete. It means that iPhone 3 has gone obsolete in India. So it's like that. And for Ambi very rightly said, I am I as a brand head of a Tata Group company, I know the tightrope that we have to walk. Thankfully, we are a B2B company and not a B2C company, so I have a little relief in that area. But for the B2C players, brand story is a disaster now, with so many avenues to manage. And with digital opening up, it is become a 24/7 job to monitor every noise, every chatter that you have, so that it doesn't snowball into a crisis. So you have to be very, very careful with your stories, the stories that you are giving out. It has to be, it has to have the right intention behind it. And I was just saying before you arrived, Ambi, that we need to also package it accordingly. So the packaging that you need for digital is not the same when you go to print, is not the same when you go for a TVC. It's not the same. The issue of companies which are not able to do it effectively is because they are serving the same thing across all the channels. That is a primal mistake. So that evolution will always take place, and ad will remain no matter what. And as far as
And
luxury is
AI
concerned, and I'll take
and
another.
AI will come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
AI
AI
will
will
come in.
come in.
AI will come in. These deep listening and all that Google is inventing is that, suppose me and Ambi talking about fountain pen, and the moment I open my Facebook after this, I see a stream of ads on fountain and fountain pens
It's
and
almost
lamps
there.
and
It's
all that.
almost there.
Honestly,
So
that does
it's very
happen
creepy.
even. I mean, once you're looking for a flight ticket, say on Make My Trip on your phone, and then the next thing you see on your Facebook ads is book a flight from Calcutta to some like Bombay or somewhere
you
like
know
that.
it,
So that
it is
still
it is
happens.
still understanding because you have a digital footprint. What about the conversation? There have been conversations at home, and this is a deep listening thing that Google is inventing, that the conversation that you're having over phone,
I think it's
that is also somewhere registered, and you see similar
I think
ads there. That is where AI is coming in. Yeah, Madhuba,
okay.
please. Yeah,
Shall we take student questions now?
sure,
We
sure.
have another session coming up. So, Neha, you should start taking questions.
All right. Orkutej Ganguly has a question. What do luxury brands want more? More number of people becoming rich, or the already rich becoming richer?
Why not both? See, at the end of the day, so I'll just take a little bit more to understand, to tell you what it is all about. See, typically what happens is that these luxury brands have been branding in luxury goods in such a way so as to make it inclusive. So that you cut out a greater part of the population and make it very exclusive to a certain set of people. So going by that traditional logic, luxury brands would want the rich becoming richer. But the same luxury brands also have a segment called Mastige, Mastig, which is mass and prestige. It's a portmanteau of these two. So the same luxury brand would want you to buy a belt, or a sunglass, or a frame, or a keyring, or something like that. To so that the mass gets addicted to the brand, so that what you showcase is the logo. So you don't showcase a Louis Vuitton trunk because you can't afford it, but you showcase a Louis Vuitton, maybe a frame, or a sunglass, or a keychain, or something like that. So traditionally, they will want the rich to become richer, so that from one trunk they can buy three trunks, and at the same time they will want people to be, the masses to be, if not rich, at least have a greater ability to pay and spend, in this invest in these logos, so that they build the aspirations. So if I can't buy the trunk today, 10 years down the line I'll buy the trunk. A car will be a better example. So if I'm buying a I don't know, a Honda City today, tomorrow I'll buy a BMW. If by that tomorrow can be 5 years, 10 years down the line. And what you do, you buy a BMW cap or a BMW jacket. It's very common. It's very common, but I think both.
I think Neha, there's a question. Yes.
There's a question from Mitanti Chaudhary. Is during the time of COVID crisis, how must one stay motivated and overcome creative block?
Ambi, sir.
Ambi, sir, yes.
Ambi, please respond. After that, I'll respond.
COVID you should see COVID as an opportunity, right?
Yes.
COVID is not just a big thing which has fallen on your head. COVID is an opportunity. You have to see COVID as an opportunity. What have you done extra during COVID? Mahul wrote a book, right? I wrote a mini book which got published. I've written another book which will hopefully come out next year, right? So we who are writers have written books. I know people who have started painting. Someone, there are so many wonderful courses available online. I know someone who said, I've started learning Python programming. Someone has learned play a new musical instrument. So the question which you will be asked is, Neha, whoever asked that question, what did you do during the lockdown? If you said I was feeling depressed, I was doing that, you're going to blow it. So please, even if you've not done anything, cook up something interesting to answer that question. And if you've not done anything, if you still have time, there is still time. Go and learn something. Go and do a course or pick up a new habit, pick up a new hobby. Do something interesting with your time. Learn cooking, for instance. Help your mom. Right?
Yes. So we have a question from Abhijita Mukherjee. Do you think luxury brands rely on mystery to maintain a certain image? And in that case, does the 24/7 social media engagement threaten that mystery?
Yes, at the beginning of the session, I had explained that typically these e-commerce thing doesn't work for luxury brands, and so they stay they do engage because they wanted to engage people like Neha and their age, but at the same time, because these are the people who are always glued to social media and digital, so just to get them, they are there. However, they know that luxury needs a kind of mystery. As I was telling Madhuba earlier, so there needs to be a mythic value of luxury that needs to be kept at all times. That composition of embodying two contradictions in the same element needs to be there. That needs a little bit of mystery. That needs a little bit of disengagement. So that's required. So the social media bombing doesn't happen with luxury brands. It does happen with the premium brands. But if you see no luxury brand, you'll see ad always rolling down your screens. It doesn't happen. Yeah.
Honestly, I loved this session and I can keep listening to you for hours and hours, even if I don't know, I can just keep on listening. But yes, Ambi sir and Dr. Mahul sir, thank you so much for joining in, and thank you.
Thank